Welcome to the Babies in Business Podcast. Join your hosts, Rachel and Avram Gonzales, real-life parents and business partners. Each week on Babies in Business, Rachel and Avram create a space for entrepreneurial parents to find their own way. They'll dive into insights on topics like leadership, efficiency, self-awareness, budgeting, and human psychology as they nurture their family and build their business. Here's your hosts, Avram and Rachel.
Welcome to the Babies in Business Podcast. This is your host, Avram Gonzales, joined by my good friend, Ryan Yokome, who is the host of the Soul Wealth Podcast, is a good friend of mine that I realized, and we've been talking about. We've never actually met, though we feel like we're brothers. Been 14 years, I think, now since we met. We were both struggling entrepreneurs on a spiritual journey that has led us down some interesting roads and brings us here today. In my mind, Ryan is the foremost expert on masculine and feminine and finding that balancing act in both business and family. We're going to dive into that today, looking at the masculine edge and leading your business and your family through that. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Avram, great to see you, man. Honored to be here. 14 years. It's insane.
It is. We were thinking maybe we have met. We were both picking our brains and realized that no, it's just been so many interviews back and forth over the years that we've done with each other and lots of videos. You just develop a closeness with people that just share the same vibe. So I'm very excited to have you here, and I've got some questions queued up. We're going to jump in, but I think we need to really lay some groundwork for people. Why is masculine and feminine, this concept we're talking about today, important from a business and a family perspective? Because there's usually two people in a partnership, right? And then you might start a family or start a business. Talk to me about why this topic is so important.
Yeah, I didn't know this topic existed until I started working with my first long-term life coach. And she was the one that mentored me specifically in this. And then also my wife, whose name is Chris, who you know as well. And so we did this work on ourselves individually, and then we started doing this work together in our relationship. And it's essentially what took us from being together for 17-ish years, 18 years, non-committed. We weren't engaged. We weren't married. We didn't have a child. And I think we were both afraid of commitment. And then it took us from that place to, I proposed to Chris in Maui. Then we got married in San Diego. Then we had a child, and this all happened in the span of 3 years. So it was like boom, boom, boom. And it accelerated our personal life a big time. But also like business-wise, why it's so important is, so I have a core essence of masculine and Chris has a core essence of feminine. So we know our roles in the business where we're strong. And what we found is if Chris takes on too much masculine roles like tasks and leadership and direction, her body actually starts to get super tense and she gets burnt out really quickly because she gets overwhelmed. Whereas me, I thrive in pressure. I like having that pressure on my back. I like the feeling of conquering it, and doing well in business. And so for me to know my role as a masculine man, and to Chris to her role and what serves her as a feminine woman in business, it's been like hugely beneficial, man.
Yeah. So you mentioned burnout, right? Yeah. And you mentioned pressure and these different elements that come together, I think affect every relationship. Knowing what your role is, and I'd like you to define that a little further. You mentioned your core essence, her core essence. People are a mix of both masculine and feminine. So can you expand on that a little bit and giving us some examples of what that actually looks like?
Yeah. So in terms of business?
Yeah, let's start with business.
Okay. Yeah. So I would look at it this way. Chris is so good at connecting with other people. She's a networker. She loves to get in and collaborate with people and have conversations. And even like outside of business, the the most important thing to Chris are her relationships. And that typically is a very feminine person. You know, I give an example, like if you're working and you're deep in it at your computer, at your desk in your office, and somebody calls you, do you answer the phone? And if the answer is yes, like it's a friend or a sibling or your parents, and the answer is yes, then chances are you lean towards the feminine because your relationships are the most important thing to you. But if you're working at the computer and the phone rings and you're like, fuck, like I'm trying to get something done here, you're probably more masculine. That's the way I am. I wouldn't answer the phone call because the most important thing to me is my purpose. And everyone tilts towards different directions, but I do believe we all have masculine and feminine within us. It's not a gender related thing. It's an energy thing. But typically people do tilt towards either being more masculine or more feminine. So our work is to help someone identify what is their core essence and then start to create their life around those strengths.
Yeah, that's interesting. I know that we've talked a lot on the podcast in recent episodes about playing in your strengths, because that's the thing that's going to allow you to accelerate every result in your life and avoid burnout and a lot of the stress and things that we come into. This is an extra layer of something to be aware of and bring into your relationships, both business and with your family. Could you share what your dynamic was with Chris when we first met years ago? There was, I know, a time where you guys might have been a little flip-flopped in how your roles were going. I think that's important for folks to hear because it had such a big impact on both your relationship and your business. Take us back.
Well, that's been a struggle for us. I mean, that flip-flopping our whole relationship. Because when we met, we were friends at first, and then I always liked her, but she was oblivious to that. She's like had no clue that I was into her. And so anyways, I made the move. I remember I was 19. We were sitting in I had a 1997 Acura Integra, and I had like done this thing out. I had wheels on it and a body kit, a Wings West body kit, and a big loud exhaust. I took the catalytic converter out of it.
Yeah, bro.
Loud. so anyways, we were in my car and it was like 11 p.m. We'd gotten back from dinner or something, and I kissed her and she was so surprised. She couldn't believe, like, what? And so anyways, that's when we started dating. But the thing was, when we first started, I didn't know what my purpose was. I was 19. I was working as a landscaper, making like $15 an hour. And she was working at the time, I want to say like a shoe company or something, or maybe she was working in the dental office as a receptionist then. So she didn't know what she wanted to do. But because I lacked direction, we actually started our relationship in the dynamics of mother-son. So she was very mothering to me. I was kind of like the son being taken care of. And we played that dynamics out for about 8 to 10 years of our relationship before we started doing this work on masculine and feminine. We realized, oh my God, like our relationship's kind of fucked. Like she's basically the mom and I'm the son. And so then from that point on, it was sort of topsy-turvy because there would be times where I would lead and then she would be following, like we're both growing, but I'm actually in the leadership masculine role, taking care of, providing and whatnot. And then I would have moments of just going through my own inner struggles where then I'd take a step back and she would come in and she would start leading. And then it would like, you know, no sex, no polarity. Whenever, if I look back from the beginning till now, whenever my wife was leading and making more money than me, she was not interested in me intimately at all. And when the flip side happens, we have polarity again. When I'm actually leading, you know, I'm taking care of her. She doesn't have that pressure and stress to make money. She feels like she can relax now into being a woman, and boom, we're like intimately connected again. So this has like been very like a topsy-turvy process for us, but I feel like we're doing the best we've ever done now. Better than before, because when we first started, dude, it was not a healthy dynamics.
Well, there's a lot of resentment that builds up because we have all these expectations about our partners, and it sounds like, you know, she was already compensating for your lack of direction, right? So then she's feeling one way about you, and then you're feeling one way about her. Again, intimacy, probably not happening that much when you feel that way about each other, you know? Gosh.
She said to me the other day, I said, "What turns you on?" And she said, "When you have money and muscles." So I don't know if that's true for every woman out there with their man, but it is for my wife.
Well, I think that the one thing that you touched on that's an important part of recognizing the masculine edge is the leadership role and and having the
Yeah.
direction and just choosing the path and saying, we're going, come with me. We're going. This is where we're going. I have the plan.
Yeah.
You brought this up. She likes the muscles, right? I want to know what exercise has and what is its role in leading on the masculine edge. How does that play together? You're a big runner. You're a pretty active guy, Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, I have an ultra marathon, my first 50K, which is 30 miles in 2 weeks. And my wife does not like the runner's build. So after this is done, I'm going to scale it back. And then I have a goal to bulk up a little bit, because next year I'm going to do a bunch of ultra races and she's probably going to hate that, but I'm going to do it anyways. So, but this is the thing I've learned, right? Is as long as I'm strong and confident in my decisions and I don't let her break me or make me question myself, that's actually what she's wanting. She wants to know that I'm stable and that she can't make me waver in myself. And then she feels safe. You know, all she needs to hear, I mean, this is a perfect example. We went to Whistler, and that's a ski resort here in Canada. And they have these gondolas that go up the mountain. And in the summertime, you can take them to just go sightseeing. You obviously can't ski. There's no snow. But she didn't want to go up there because she's afraid of heights. And so we got into a massive argument about this. And we ended up not going up there. And so I was upset. She was upset. And she said to me after the fact, right, all I needed to hear from you was everything is going to be okay. And I would have went. And that was such a light bulb moment for me. I'm like, God, she just needs to feel safe in order for her to feel like she can relax into trusting me, kind of thing. So yeah, as far as the workouts and stuff like that, I think on a superficial level, she likes the muscles because it makes her feel safe. But that's what she's ultimately craving. But that's the same thing in business. Like, she likes the money because it makes her feel secure. Like, doesn't every woman like to know they feel safe and secure financially and they're not in a stressful situation, right? And so this goes back to, that's what I know it's her core essence. And, as long as I'm on my edge, cultivating that presence and that purpose, then she feels like she can relax and not have to pick up the slack and be over masculine herself, right?
That's the thing, right? So what is some of the advice that you're giving to women right now who are feeling like they're picking up the slack for their spouse? I can think of, several people that I know that have been together for a very long time. And you mentioned this mother-son type of dynamic. Yeah. I see that in a lot of relationships. Tell me more about that.
Building a business while raising a family can be tough to juggle for any entrepreneur. Knowing where to focus and how to spend your limited time is critical to your success. That's why Babies in Business has produced and made available a fantastic audio resource for you. It's titled 5 Key Focus Areas to Build a Profitable Business Without Burnout. During this short training, Rachel and Avram peel back the curtain on their secrets to building a business that serves your family, your dreams, and beyond. To download your free copy of the 5 Key Focus Areas, go to babiesandbiz.com/download. Again, that's babiesandbiz, BIZ.com/download to get your free copy. We hope you enjoy. Now, back to the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that I'll see in as far as relationships that the woman is picking up the slack, it is because the man is not stepping up into his purpose. But that's just one side of things. Like, a lot of times, the woman can be very controlling and she doesn't give him the space to actually grow to the next level. Like, what I've seen in working with couples, because I do work with individuals, but I also work with couples, is when I'm working with a couple, there's usually, if there's an issue in the relationship, okay, if there's no issues in the relationship, you're good, you're golden. But if there is some kind of relationship issues, it's usually, there's resentment, like you said. There's a frustration from her part because he's not stepping up. So then she feels she needs to pick up the slack to be financially secure and make sure all the bills are taken care of and they're not going to fall behind and whatnot. So there's a level of pressure that comes with that. And then that pressure builds up angulars in the body, which cause tension. And so I've worked with so many women, man, that there's tension in their neck, there's tensions in their back, they're worried at night, they're stressed out and all this stuff, but they feel like they still need to do things to make money because they can't rely on their man. So there is a dynamics when I work with couples. It's to support each other so he can step more into his purpose as a man, whatever that is. And she can, if she wants to, go for that. But also if she may desire to relax a little bit into her feminine so she's not carrying so much of the stress. And then it repolarizes the relationship again. But yeah, man, it always comes down to the women are sometimes overly controlling, right? And the men are just purposeless and confused on what they want to do with their life.
Yeah, I'd love for you to speak a little bit more about that purposelessness. I think there's a lot of men that are struggling with that for a variety of reasons. I think there's many things that are impacting that in the world today and the narratives that are going on. But what would you tell a young man who's struggling to find his way?
God, that's a good question.
Like, where do you start?
Yeah, I think the best place to start, and I had my life coach ask me this when we first started, and she asked Chris the same thing. What's your relationship with your parents like? If we want to get all therapeutic on it, because it's our model of masculine and feminine come from our parents, and also society and whatnot, marketing and all the stuff that we know. But I mean, if there's a saying that women marry their dad and men marry their mom. Sure. And if I look at my wife, she's exactly like my mom. And if Chris looks at me, I'm very similar to her dad, as much as maybe I don't want to admit that I am. And it's kind of weird, right? And so as far as if you look at like a young man, well, it's like, what's your male role model? Who's teaching you to become a man? Who's teaching you to be a provider and live in integrity and honesty? And how do you navigate dealing with some of the addictions or the disempowering habits you have that hold you back from living your purpose? And who's supporting you with those things? Like, I just had a guy, Avram, who messaged me on Facebook, and he wants to talk to me on a coaching call. And he said, if people only knew what I've been through over the past 3 years. And I think in general, especially young men, just don't, and men in general, don't share their struggles in life. They don't share with other people like the hard things they're going through, or they're using their wife as their therapist, and then that will break trust with their wife, their partner, because then they feel then the woman feels like she's got to do something because she can't trust her man because he's going through some stuff, So I think it really comes down to, like, one of the reasons I do these podcast episodes and get on here is I do hope it helps men, like, ultimately find their purpose and become the man that they want to be. But I do believe we need strong male role models to do that.
I had like 4 questions for you, and they all just went flying out my head because that was just so, I think, spot on money of an answer.
Yeah. And it's like, if I look at my life, my dad is Japanese. He's a hard worker. He still works to this day. He makes great money. When we were growing up, my parents struggled and whatnot. But I've had male mentors my whole life. Like, my first mentor was John Assaraf in 2006, and he mentored me for 3 years. That was my first like business mentor. And I mean, here's a tip for all of the people out there, like business or relationship or whatever. Us men, if you're masculine, the only thing we care about is being respected. So it doesn't matter if my wife, or any woman for that matter, says to me, I'm so proud of you, you're doing so amazing. That doesn't mean shit to me. It doesn't even faze me. If I have a male role model say to me, hey man, you're doing awesome. Like, I respect you for what you're creating, or keep going. That is so motivating for me to hear another man tell me that. But to have my partner tell me that, it's not motivating, because I want to make sure I'm leading my partner, right? I don't need, it's like basically my mom telling me, good job, little boy, keep going, right? It's emasculating in a certain way.
Right.
So like one of the dynamics that Chris and I have when, because we know this stuff that works well for us, is when I'm telling her, hey, I did this amazing run, or I made some money in business, or I helped some people, she won't say, good job, I'm so proud of you. She'll just say, tell me more. Tell me more. You know, because us guys, we just want to toot our own horns. I don't need someone to tell me that they're proud of me. As far as my partner goes. Yeah.
Yeah. I just want you to hear all the details about how I closed that deal and how sick this is going to be for the future of our family. And yeah, I
Yeah,
want to tell you all
exactly.
about that.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Yep. Yeah. And the same is true for Chris. Like, she'll come to me with business stuff. She did yesterday. She had a really hard day. And she had this woman, you know, when you work with people come to you and they have their stuff, right? And sometimes you're not dealing with the adult version, you're dealing with the 7-year-old version that's not getting their needs met. And so she had this woman that just lost it on her. And so Chris got off the coaching call and she was crying. Like, Chris was coaching a group of people. She came off and she was crying. And we had this deep conversation about what she experienced and what happened. And sometimes my wife just needs me to just shut up and listen to her. And not solve her problems, not try to analyze it, not criticize her, but just listen. And so I did. I just listened to her, had compassion, sympathized with her, and you know, she's good after 10 minutes talking. And that's a huge takeaway too, is like, how do you support your partner, especially if you have kids? You know, how do you support your partner when you're both at your limits? Like, that's the key. And for us, it's learning to know when to listen, and then also know when to like lead the person and help them get out of their stuff. When's the right time? Which, by the way, I was going to tell you this too, Avram, because I know this podcast is about babies. Your audience may not know, but we had our only child so far, Noah. She was born in 2020 and July 2020. So when the world was going through all the crazy stuff, we decided we're going to birth a baby. And not only that, I started my coaching business. 2014 was when I officially started it. And after a few years of growing it, I quickly realized that one of the reasons I'm growing is because I wanted the time freedom to be with our firstborn child, which she wasn't pregnant, obviously, at that time. So I worked super hard. Like, you've seen what we've done in business. I built that business up. We're just consistently making about $400,000 a year. So I was happy with that, with our lifestyle and what that provided us. And I'm like, we're going to be good. And then Noah was born, and dude, like, everything went to shit. In my mind, I thought, we're set up. This is good. Like, I worked hard to this point. And what I learned really quick becoming a father is that having a child will point out all of the flaws and holes that you have in your game as a business owner, all of them. And so she wasn't a deep sleeper. She wouldn't sleep very much. I mean, the first year was just brutal because we had no sleep. And so it turned my whole world upside down. And I realized in order for me to scale my business and be a father, I need to grow. Like, man, I need to like evolve, because the way I was doing things pre-baby worked, and they weren't working in this new era of being a father, plus the new era post 2020, which is a different energy in itself. So, dude, the last 3 years for me have been an evolution of deep, profound growth of being at my limit and then learning how to. I'm sure you can relate.
It's like you have the glass jar, you know, and then there's you get thrown in there with a bunch of pennies and rocks and stuff, and then it just gets shaken around.
Yes.
And then maybe you come back out in one piece, you know.
Dude,
It's just because everything about it changes.
If I'm completely honest, if I'm completely honest with you, there was so many moments where I'm like, just no sleep, baby crying all the time. Chris and I work from home, so it's me, my wife, my child. We're all working from home. there is no peace. There is no break really, right? And I mean, I had moments where it's like, is life even worth it? Like, what is this
Yeah, man.
about? You know, and like I literally have thoughts of like, what would it be like if I took my life, you know? And not that I would do that, but I
Mm-hmm.
think the fantasy of it gave me some kind of
Yeah.
momentarily release from the stress and the pressure, you know? And it's so interesting. And obviously that's something that I would never do because of my not commitment, but my purpose here to serve Noah and be here with Noah. But when you're at your limit, man, and any parent knows this, you get pushed to the very edge of everything. It's like, dude, all of your shit comes up. And that's what it was for us for at least a solid first year of being parents and then also growing a business.
All of the thoughts, man. You have all of the thoughts. Doesn't mean you do anything with them, but
No,
you find yourself face to face with this like animalistic side of you that is really pushed. Like you said,
yep,
that's the best way to put it. You're just you're full.
you're
You're
full.
full, and you're this close to that breaking point. I have so much more compassion for parents now. You know,
Oh,
you see
dude.
that breakdown at the grocery store, or whatever. You're not thinking about everything that led to that and what the
No,
day has been like so far,
no.
or
And
the last 2 weeks. You know,
exactly. Yep. And especially from a masculine man, because my biggest thing that I realized about my business is I thrive in business when I feel peace. Like I do very well off being creative. I think you do too. Like I love creativity and I love pouring that into my business as an outlet. And that piece was gone. I mean, that piece was like, that piece was sent to Guatemala, man, once I had a kid. And so it was like it was like learning to, to somehow navigate growing a business um, in a chaotic, like you said, jar full of dirt, pennies, whatever, and still being able to show up. And that wasn't always easy, but somehow we did it. You know, with the grace of God, somehow we managed to get through it. But it was definitely a pressure cooker. Not as much now because Noah sleeps and, you know, she's a little bit older. She's like almost 3.5. But dude, those first 2 years were absolutely brutal. I do not think it would have been as hard if I didn't have a business or I wasn't working. So let's just say I was at home for the first year on mat leave or something like that, right? Is that what they call it for men? I don't know. But let's say I was on home for the first year. I don't think it was the stress of like, okay, I'm taking care of the child in the back of my mind. Shit, I got all the stuff that I need to do with business that I can't do right now. Or I'm, like you said, I have the time or I'm just energetically wiped that I just can't even mentally handle it. And so that pressure, it just helped me grow and become a better man and a better business owner to show up in a different way.
I agree. I agree. And I think that first year, nobody can prep you for it. And to your point, the added element of, I think, also working from home when your family is also at home.
Yeah.
I'll have to show you maybe after we finish recording here. I have a little man cave that's out in the garage now that has a desk and a chair and an air conditioning unit. Okay. And it's there's a shelving unit that's above and it's wrapped with painter's canvas so that I can go out in the garage and work without hearing any crying because I cannot concentrate when there's crying. If there's one thing that makes me come fucking unglued after a certain amount of time, it's the crying. I just cannot handle the crying. If Rachel comes home and my headphones are on like the kitchen table, she knows it's been a pretty intense day because I just can't handle any more crying. But the challenge of doing it all at home and everything being together is pretty intense. But to your point,
Yeah.
you end up finding out all these superpowers and things that both you and your partner didn't know that you had or that you're capable of, and then you also find out really quickly what's important to you, to your family, and to your business, and the
Mm-hmm.
activities that are
Mm-hmm.
the most interesting and fulfilling. And then you
Yeah.
just end up cutting everything else because you have to.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Perfection. I'm a perfectionist and that went out the window real quick because it became let's get the content out because I don't have the time or energy to perfect this like I used to. But, our business coach said something to me years ago before we became parents. And she said, her name's Shanda Sumter. She owns a business called Hardcore Business. And she said to me, aren't you worried about getting sick and then not being able to show up for your business? And she was talking about insurance and whatnot to me. And I said, no, I said, never. Like, I don't get sick, rarely. And I said, it's just not really a concern of mine, I thought. And what's interesting is after we had Noah, what I didn't realize, and this is where it showed the holes in my game as a business owner, is that making like almost $500,000 a year was dependent on me feeling good. Because I didn't have online courses, funnels, all these things going that were automated, the business growth and sustainability was based on how I felt. And what I quickly realized through lack of sleep and the chaos of just being a dad working from home is it wasn't sustainable in this new realm that I'm in being a dad. And so I had to learn like, hey, how do I maximize my ability to feel good and feel like myself when there's all this chaos happening around me from being the responsibilities of being a dad? And if I were to say my biggest lesson around masculinity is that, like, it's very easy to be a strong, stable man with clear direction when it's just yourself. You don't have any kids. You don't have high stressor.
Yeah.
That's easy, man. You're traveling the world. Like we were traveling.
Yeah, so easy.
So easy. And it's just another, they say new level, new devil. It's another level to learn how to do this with more different unique stresses in your life.
Man, perfect place to put a pin in this conversation, right? Wrapping this. Ryan, I've known you for a long time. We've connected all kinds of different places. But I know that you have some favorites. Where should people connect with you? Is that your Instagram?
Instagram is good for personal connection. And then I have a podcast called the Soul Wealth Podcast. So this is a part of what we focus on. And also, essentially what I do is help people get out of their own way to grow their business. So the inner work, things that stop people. So that's what that podcast is focused on. So anyone that wants to essentially make more money with their business and get out of their own way, and then also learn the masculine and feminine dynamics. Soul Wealth Podcast.
Yeah, you work with a lot of coaches, right?
Tons of coaches, mostly coaches.
Yeah, more than that.
And then I also do some life coaching for people that don't have a business and they just want help moving through some personal issues that they have.
Okay, very cool. And then you also have a website too. I think it's ryanyokome.com.
Yep.
We'll put all that stuff in the show notes. Yeah, we'll put all that stuff in the show notes. Connect with Ryan. He's always posting great stuff on Instagram. And you could follow his everyday life. You can see what kind of stuff he's planting in his garden. Actually, one of my highlights, because since Lincoln was born, we haven't had a garden. And I'm just languishing over here because we really enjoyed that. And then he was born. Just didn't have time. That garden died that year, Ryan. It died in the heat of the Albuquerque sun. So, right. So we'll link all that stuff up in the show notes. Make sure you check out Ryan on the Soul Wealth podcast. Connect with him on Instagram. We're going to wrap things up with some rapid fire questions. I didn't tell Ryan what we were talking about today. I threatened him that there might be some crazy questions. Probably not. Just really cute stuff. All right. So Ryan, what's your favorite part of being a dad right now?
Seeing my daughter smile, her laugh, her smile, every night before we go to bed, because we sleep with her. We had a home birth, so we still sleep with her in the same bed, the same house that she was born in. And every night before we go to bed, I share my favorite moment with her for that day. And it's definitely seeing her smile, her cute little smile.
That's so sweet. What is the most challenging thing that you're navigating as a parent right now?
This is rapid fire? Do you got another 30 minutes?
No prep. No prep. I know. You got to pick one.
Most challenging thing right now is my wife. To be honest. Yeah, to be honest.
Yep. It can be like that when you're leading the family. It's all in one soup. What's a developmental thing that Noah's done recently that surprised you? She's like 3 right now, right?
Yeah, she's just over 3.
Just for context for folks, yeah.
It's her
Mhm.
speech. We for personal reasons, we decided not to vaccinate her. No vitamin K shot, nothing like that. That's just personal beliefs. And what I noticed is her speech development is so strong. Like her ability to speak English is amazing. In fact, like we get around other kids, and I mean, she's running circles around them as far as her ability to enunciate things. So just seeing her develop that way is, it's a proud dad moment. It's very organic.
Yeah, that is very cool. I can't wait till the little guy starts speaking. What's your best piece of advice for entrepreneurial parents that are trying to balance their business and life?
Yeah, don't do it alone. So get support. If it's you, Avram, or whoever, so you can, last thing you want to do is what we found really hard on us is do it on your own and then build up the stress. Like, and as far as like, if you need someone to talk to just like unpack what you're going through emotionally, or you even need like support as far as like thing that has been very helpful for us is Chris's parents. They, help us out with Noah, and that's been great to just give us like a break and a breather. And that's been really, really helpful. So yeah, don't be afraid to ask for help. And don't be stubborn either. It will give you the ability to grow your business so you actually feel better and have the time. The other thing I would say is Chris and I are very good with boundaries, and that's included in Noah as well. We teach her a lot about boundaries. So as an example, right now, if I'm working, my office door is closed, which means nobody can come in. And so if you need that 30 minutes or 60 minutes to work on your business, you've got to have that time or your business won't grow. When the office door is open, anyone can walk through and talk to me whenever they want. But yeah, you got to put that time in every day, or else the weeks will go by and you're not consistent, and then it just doesn't grow. So just get consistent and you'll do it.
That consistency is the antithesis of the masculine edge.
It
Right?
is too. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. Inconsistency. I might have said consistency. Well, hey, thanks, Ryan. I appreciate you being here on the podcast. That wraps up our fast and furious question round here at the end that I didn't prep you for as planned. But for those of you listening, make sure to subscribe to the podcast. Find us on social media at Babies and Biz Pod, and look out for all of these shorts, the reels, the cool clips we're going to pull out from this interview with Ryan today, and share them with those that you know might benefit. So with that, it's a wrap, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Babies in Business Podcast. Who do you know that would benefit from hearing this episode? Share it with them and post about it on social media. You can find the show notes for this episode, free downloads, and connect with the rest of the community at babiesandbiz.com. We'll see you next time.